Jeff, do you like philosophy?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Okay,
yeah.
read us the opening quote, will you?
Philosophy was a minority culture for an intellectual elite prepared to make the necessary effort.
Are you prepared to make the necessary effort?
I'm going to give it a college try.
All right.
Welcome to the Ad Nauseam podcast, where classical gourmands everywhere can finally get their fill. Join us for a delectable discussion of Greco-Roman civilization stretching from the Minoans and Mycenaeans through the Renaissance and right down to the present. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here are your hosts, Dr. David Noe and Dr. Jeff Winkle.
Welcome, Ad Nauseam listeners, to episode 207. I'm down here in the bunker, Parnassus, Vomitorium
Central.
Now, I can never remember.
I don't know.
That's after so many of them.
It's a lapse in memory, I would say.
But I think we've landed at our final location.
I think so. This is where we will be buried.
Exactly right.
As always, your name is?
My name is Dr. Jeffrey T. Winkle. I'm down here in that aforementioned place with my good friend and excellent co-host, Dr. David C. Noe. How you feeling, Dave?
I'm doing well, thanks. We have some really cold weather.
Oh, yeah.
I was reviewing some previous episodes this past week, not just for self-congratulations, but for a reason that we'll mention later. And I came across one where you were mentioning Zeus was hurling snow cones all over the landscape.
Yeah, exactly.
That was very well said.
Right, exactly.
So we don't have too much snow now, but we have some bitter cold.
Yeah, it's rolling in. It's going to get, I was looking at the forecast, it's going to get a lot worse.
Yes.
Yep.
In fact, to try to counteract this, I've been wearing mittens a lot lately.
Okay.
Mittens to keep my hands warm.
Just like around the house?
Yeah, and I kind of think of it this way. I've got to take a little time.
Yeah.
A little time to think things over.
All right.
I better read between the lines in case I need it when I'm older.
That's good. That's good advice.
Yeah.
Yes.
But my hands were still quite cold despite the mittens. And this mountain I must climb feels like the world upon my shoulders.
That's heavy, man.
And through the clouds I see love shine.
Yeah.
It keeps me warm as life grows colder.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
But my fingers still cold and no dexterity.
Yeah.
You ever try to type with mittens on?
Oh, it's terrible.
It's very difficult.
It's impossible.
You ever try to open a bottle of ketchup? I don't mean the inverted squirty kind, but the old-fashioned kind with a twisty metal cap.
Forget about it.
With mittens, you can't do it.
No way.
So it's tough. In my life, there's been heartache and pain. I don't know if I can face it again. Can't stop now. I've traveled so far to change this lonely life.
Man, that's rough, man.
Yeah, so eventually I went to one of these clothing stores and I said, I got to get rid of these mittens. And Lou Graham was waiting on me.
What in the world?
Lou Graham.
Is he's doing retail now?
He's doing retail. the famous singer from Foreigner.
Of course.
And I got to change this lonely life.
Yeah.
So I said to Lou, I want to know what glove is. I want you to show me. I want to feel what glove is. I know you can show me.
Well, of course, Lou's the one who
That's
can show
right.
you, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So there you have it.
Man, that was I really appreciate it. That was a long road to get there, but I love it.
It's not the longest one we've traveled.
No.
We've overdone it.
So are we back to this?
I don't know.
This gag?
I don't know. People are hard on the gags.
I know they are.
Give up the middle name thing. And
right, exactly.
I'm still a little sore about that.
That was part of our 200th episode. Didn't somebody call and said, hey, you need to drop this?
And we thought they were right on the merits, but it's not easy coming up with gags, let's be honest.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah.
So some things to take care of before we get into the nit and the grit of this episode.
Yep.
We'd like to congratulate Mr. Matt McCravey.
Woo, Matt.
Yeah, that name sounds a little made up, doesn't it, McCravey?
It sounds really fake.
It sounds, actually, as it occurs to me now, like a McDonald's breakfast item.
I'll have the number 3 McCravey.
Yeah, McCravey and biscuits. Anyway, Matt won the fantastic Hackett giveaway of the Complete Works of Aristotle.
That's right.
Smith-sewn, purple cover slipcase. Congratulations, Matt. Thanks for being such a loyal listener, and look out for breakfast is what I would say.
That's fantastic. So are these things on their way to
They
Matt?
are, thanks to Hackett.
Fantastic.
But there's good news, listener.
Yes.
We are giving away another Aristotle set.
The same set?
No.
Okay.
No, this one, did you have to point that out?
What? That was just...
This one does not have a slipcase.
Oh, okay.
So these ones you're going to have to carry around in your own pillowcase or some kind of a I don't know, some kind of a bag of your own.
They'll show up like bound with twine.
There you go.
Right.
But it's the same basic set. You just don't get the slipcase.
Yeah.
Fantastic. If you'd like to win a copy of this, you need to email dave@adnauseam.com.
Don't forget the V.
Yes, and in the subject heading, please put this word, kontos.
Kontos?
K-O-N. See, you don't know what it is either.
No, I'm...
K-O-N-T-O-S.
Okay.
It's Pavlos Kontos. He and CDC Reeve are the editors, and I can always remember Reeve. I can never remember Kontos.
Okay.
So here's my solution to help me remember Kontos.
Yeah.
If you want to win a copy, send me an email, david@nauseam.com. Put Kontos, K-O-N-T-O-S, in the subject heading, and you will be entered to win your own set.
So every time that pops up, that'll help you remember the name.
That's correct.
Gotcha.
That's my little device.
Sounds about right, yeah.
Now, before we get into it, we have 2 quadrigenda.
Oh, no. Really?
These were not sent by Remote Ron or Local Will
Okay.
or any of these fellows, Lazy Steve. These are ones that I came to on my own.
You just went back and checked?
Yes.
Okay.
And they're equally embarrassing.
Oh.
So the first one is, we wrongly said when we were talking about being Marrou on a desert island with the cast of Gilligan.
Yeah.
We wrongly said that the part of Lovey Howell was played by Natalie French. Or at least
that's not
I
correct.
said it.
Okay.
And you agreed.
Yeah.
So it's really your fault.
So it is Natalie something,
It's
though.
Natalie Schaefer.
There we go.
Natalie Schaefer. Now
Okay.
everyone can rest easy.
All right, man.
The second corrigendum is that I said Isaac Casaubon was called to the court of Edward VI. Anachronistic. He was called to the court of James VI.
Okay. All right.
And, we just got to be careful with these things.
I don't know my English kings.
I don't know them very well either, obviously. So that's another one where I slipped up and you fell for it.
Oh, man. Well, apologies.
All right.
Hey, before we get in, I have a couple of... I started back in the classroom this week.
Okay.
And I caught a couple of anecdotes that I think that... well, at least I find them
Let's
interesting.
hear it.
Right. So in just a couple of hours ago in a myth class, I was asking the students, do you have a favorite god or goddess? And,
okay.
And if so, tell me a little bit why.
Reasonable question.
Right? And I got some of the usual answers. And then one kid raised his hand and said, hey, I like Aries.
Aries.
I said,
okay.
That's interesting. What do you like about Aries? And he paused for a second and he looked very pensive and he looked at me and he goes, I think it's the chaos and the rage. That was...
So just the chaos alone would not be enough to endear Aries to him.
That's what kind of drew him a little bit.
But then there's the rage that sealed the deal.
That drags him across the finish line, right?
Interesting.
Yeah. And now the second anecdote is a little bit more strange.
Can I ask?
Yes, please.
Did you push back on that a little bit? Did you roast the fella a little bit?
I think I did. I think I said something along the lines. So it has to be both, right? It has to be the chaos paired with the rage.
Right.
That's what really kind of hits you. And
Interesting.
He just nodded yes. Right?
Okay.
Now the next one is a little bit more strange.
All right.
And so this was after the first day of class. This was in my film class. And I always ask, if you have a question about something, you got an issue, just come up afterwards.
And talk to you.
Talk to me.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, there was kind of a long-ish line.
Oh,
there was maybe
interesting.
7 students. They all had different things that they
did. You have something hanging out of your nose during the lecture? Or?
If I did, they didn't say anything about that.
Okay.
Right. And I just noticed there was this one gentleman just kind of hanging out. He was the last in line. And so by the time he got to me, it was probably a good 15 minutes after class ended, right?
That's some devotion.
And I said, yeah, so I said, what do you need? He goes, hey, I just wanted to tell you, you have the same color eyes as my girlfriend. And then fist bump, and he walked out.
That is beyond strange.
Isn't that weird?
That is very odd.
That's right. And he waited 15 minutes to just to tell me that.
So that he noticed bespeaks a great deal of perceptivity on his part.
I guess so.
But waiting 15 minutes to tell you that?
Right. And why did I need to know that?
I don't know.
It's very strange.
Right? Are you a little creeped out?
A little bit. We'll kind of see what happens next week, though.
Maybe one of the students will come up and say, just wanted you to know you have the same nose as my dentist. So you're like the Mr. Potato Head of mythology instruction.
Right, exactly.
Strange.
Yeah. Yes. So we got to get into the topic.
Yeah, we
of the
do.
Day. Yep. That we've taken care of all of the business.
I believe so. Okay. You had another anecdote about the last time we traveled together, which has been a decade.
I know. That makes me really sad. Dave.
2016. Can you believe how old we are?
We're old, right?
We toured Italy with a Dutch tour guide. What was her name? Was it Monica? It was not Monica.
But she was brutal.
Well, I wouldn't say that on the air.
I would.
Okay. We made it through. We did okay.
I mean, I felt during that trip like she was just a second away from clunking our heads together like Mo.
I think so. That's right. She tolerated us, but we saw some great sights.
We did see some great sights. Yeah.
But we're talking about Marrou.
Yes, we are. Yep.
Chapter 11 of part 2, as announced in the little intro. And some listener might be asking, are you ever going to get through this book?
I believe after this chapter, we're like a fifth of the way through?
No, we're halfway.
Halfway. Okay.
In fact, after this, the only remaining portion of part 2 is the conclusion, which is on humanism. Then we launch into the Roman part.
Okay.
So if you've been thinking, I can't stay around for more Marrou, it's about to change. We're going to go into the Roman part of traditional education, and there'll be some interesting new material.
So if our audience is feeling a little bit marooned, then there's... Don't shake your head at me.
I can shake my head. It's either head or fist. Take your choice.
But there's some interesting stuff coming. That's all I'm trying to say.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get started then.
Yes. All right, Dave, would you read the opening lines to get us into it?
Absolutely.
All right.
This is from page 206. Philosophy was a minority culture for an intellectual elite prepared to make the necessary effort. It meant breaking with the usual culture, whose general tone, as we have seen, was literary, rhetorical, and aesthetic. It meant even more, for Hellenistic philosophy was not only a special kind of intellectual training, it was also an ideal of life that claimed the whole man. To become a philosopher meant adopting a new way of life, one that was more exacting morally and demanded a certain amount of ascetic effort. This manifested itself in dress, food, and behavior. The philosopher could be recognized by his cloak, which was short and dark and made of coarse cloth, the tribon.
The tribon.
That's right.
Do you have any tribones in your closet?
I think it's kind of like a hoodie or maybe a crop top. I don't know.
I think it's a combo.
A combo.
The hoodie, the crop top hoodie.
You got the hood, but then it only comes down to cover your ribs.
Exactly right. But who would want to see these guys coming?
I don't know. But there's more, because then we are introduced to the dog philosophers.
Yes.
You want to read that portion?
Sure.
Please.
The cynics pushed this break with society to such a point that it became self-contradictory and scandalous. They never washed, never had their hair cut, wrapped themselves in rags, and lived on alms like beggars, claiming to be outside ordinary polite society.
Well, there you go. It's just like Beats Veenstra back in the early 90s at Calvin Collage.
You know, that's when I read this, it actually reminded me of my dorm days.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's just pure undergrad stuff.
Right. I remember there were a couple of guys down the hall who took great pride and welcomed people into the dorm to show them that they had never washed their bathroom. It was foul.
Well, when I became a philosophy major at that institution, prior to that time, I had no particular dress or mode of living. When I became a philosophy major, then I started to cultivate a certain amount of asceticism, and you might say distance. So I had this kind of flannel pullover thing.
Yeah.
And it was warm. I wore it in place of a coat. And it became like my daily attire. So much so that people began to notice, you're always wearing that thing.
Really?
And it was because, I'm a philosophy major now. I have to read books, pretend to be above the fray.
Yeah.
Cultivate a certain sort of elite asceticism.
This is not a bit you're doing? This is true?
It's all true. What do you mean a bit? Well, I don't do bits.
Sometimes I don't know where you're going with these things. Okay.
It's all true.
All right, so this is true that you actually consciously changed the way that you dress.
I don't think it was conscious.
No?
I just kind of slipped into it.
Okay.
Is what I'm saying.
So
when you're young, you're trying to find your identity.
You're right.
Come on.
Yeah, no, I remember. I was not a philosophy major, but I was on the edge of those circles. I remember there was one guy who kind of affected a pipe.
I can probably tell you who it is. I remember. And I was able to distance myself from that person because I was more serious about the study of philosophy. But the basic point is there's a little cadre of individuals who gathered around their favorite philosophers.
Yes.
And it did in fact affect these three things: dress, food, and behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
We know there's a popular professor there now who is a strong advocate of veganism.
That's true. Yeah.
And so it's the same kind of thing, right? Philosophy is supposed to come out of the cloister and affect your whole life.
Right.
It's a Hellenistic idea.
Right. And then, speaking of that example, it's also you have particular philosophers attracting acolytes, right?
Exactly.
Who are there to kind of imitate the headmaster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you want to go on, please, with what he says about the cynics? They're still in the first paragraph?
Yes. But this was only an extreme statement of what was recognized to be a general principle. Everyone knew that philosophy implied an ideal of life that was opposed to the ordinary culture and presupposed a deep sense of vocation, indeed a conversion.
Yeah, so that's the point right there, conversion. And I think we can take that as the touchstone for the entire chapter.
Yeah.
People today don't think of philosophy in that way, I would suggest, but during the Hellenistic era, which is where we are situated, death of Alexander, 323, down to the rise of the Roman Empire, say Actium 31, philosophy rules the day, and according to Marrou, it's not just a kind of casual study.
Right.
It's a complete change in the way you see the world.
It's religious.
Exactly.
Right. Now, as I read this chapter too, it struck me that, say if a listener was just dropping in to this chapter and the podcast on this chapter, one of the things that might surprise them is that philosophy just wasn't just part of kind of the everyday educational program, right?
Yes.
As if you followed the Marrou episodes, you learned that it's Isocrates, it's rhetoric
is the queen of the sciences.
It's kind of the practical elements of speaking and arguing and persuading.
For sure.
I think probably a casual fan would be forgiven to think that, well, back then weren't they all just kind of interested in philosophy and philosophizing? But that's not the case.
Like a scene from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
But no, not at all. They
all.
were not interested in philosophy.
No, and I think part of the reason is because it demanded your entire life.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, if listeners of this podcast go all the way back to episode 1, which was entitled Classics as a Way of Life, we were actually riffing on this notion of philosophy as a way of life.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very popular now. Most of the undergrad institutions in the United States, including the one where we matriculated and then taught, they have in their undergrad curriculum some course like a introduction to philosophy. It used to be called, Western philosophy. It's usually broader now. But that's been the one course that nobody can escape.
Right.
Even at our institution where we were before Calvin.
Yep.
Philosophy 153, if you were in engineering, something else, a practically oriented discipline, you had to take that one course.
That's right. Yeah.
Because it was in some ways epitomizing Western culture.
Was that the course that hooked you?
Yes, absolutely.
All started?
Yeah, as we've talked before.
Yep.
That's what got me into the flannel and the drinking coffee and the being detached.
Right. Did you hang out in that room?
I did.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's what you're thinking.
Yeah,
it's called the Jellima room.
That's right.
Named after a very famous American philosopher, Henri-Irénée.
Yeah.
And that's powerful for a young mind.
Yes.
If you see books and people with interesting and similar ideas,
yeah,
it's kind of what we're trying to do with the podcast.
Yeah, exactly right.
So let's go on next to the notion of conversion. How does Marrou explain this concept?
Well, let me read this little anecdote, which I think is really interesting. He says, in terms of conversions, this is not too strong a word. The ancients were very fond of the story about young Polemon, who burst into the lecture hall after an orgy while he was still drunk and had a crown on his head. The philosopher Xenocrates was discussing temperance, and he went on speaking so persuasively and so affectingly that Polemon renounced his life of debauchery, fell in love with philosophy, and later succeeded his master as director of the academy.
Wow.
So this is one of these grand, sudden
incredible
conversions.
So Polemon comes from this love party, this orgy. He's drunk.
Yeah.
He's wearing a crown, a kind of party, sort of a party favor thing.
A party hat.
He's dressed up.
Yes, exactly. Like the British people in Christmas, they wear those little crowns.
A little Auld Lang Syne, something like that.
Yeah.
He bursts into the lecture hall.
Yeah.
And Xenocrates is lecturing on, of all things, temperance.
Now, it's kind of weird that these things were happening right next door to each other. You get the party in one room.
I don't think that's so surprising.
Okay, well.
You ever been to an undergrad campus? I mean... From what I can tell, there's a lot of shenanigans in close proximity to actual learning.
Okay, all right, I'll buy it.
That's my impression.
Okay.
This reminds me quite a bit of Augustine of Hippo, and I think it's Confessions Book 8.
Okay.
Where he is in the famous garden scene in Milan. He hears the Tolle Lege, and he turns to Romans chapter 13, and he reads that portion, not in debauchery and so forth, don't make allowance for the flesh.
Yes.
And it's a conversion moment.
Right.
And he says, from that moment on, the light burst into my mind, and I stopped all of my pursuit of illicit love and became a Christian.
Yeah.
So I'm quite sure there's at least one excellent dissertation on this subject. That is the connection between the philosophical conversion of the Hellenistic era and the way that the early church fathers talk about their conversion to Christianity.
Right.
There has to be somewhere because
the
ideas are so similar.
Right. And also, I think part of that would be, I think a lot of these stories are kind of would be heavily mythologized, right?
Yes.
As well, and become part of another philosopher trying to persuade another of kind of you too can have this this nirvana experience.
That's right.
Yeah.
Follow along in the wake here.
Right.
So a kernel of truth, and then accretions, barnacles, you might say, of legendary material.
Yeah. A personal story.
Yes, please.
Years ago, when I was I was in high school, and I was on a mission trip with my church.
Okay.
And we were down in Mississippi, and we were kind of helping out with kind of construction projects down
Right.
there. And we teamed up with another group down there, and I forget what kind of association they were with, but they were talking to this guy. It was very clear that they were of the opinion that if you did not have a conversion experience like that, then your conversion is...
Yeah, your faith was illegitimate.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty common.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the first time that you had encountered it, coming from a West Michigan kind of reformed understanding of what faith is.
Yeah, and so we had kind of... It was...
Did you make one up?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I told the guy, well, I don't agree with that.
Interesting.
And he was quoting scripture to me and telling me that...
Misquoting, perhaps.
I don't remember what he said, but I remember we just kind of agreed to disagree. But it was very tension filled.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. What about women studying philosophy, Jeff?
Yeah. Would you pick that up there?
Sure. So, says Marrou, Hipparchia, again, was a rich and beautiful young woman who came from the aristocracy. She gave up everything to study under Crates. For though women neither welcomed nor were welcomed by the schools of rhetoric, they were no strangers to philosophy, and such vocations, though not very common, were not exceptional. So that's interesting. Mm-hmm. If you were a woman with intellectual gifts, you could make your way in philosophy.
Yeah.
The most famous one was Hypatia, the Alexandrian woman.
Right.
Who supposedly was killed by Christians.
Yes.
Alexandrian is what I meant to say.
Mm-hmm.
But if you wanted to practice or study rhetoric, that was off limits to a woman.
That's really interesting. I imagine a lot of that idea goes back to Diotima too, back in Socrates' own day.
The symposium.
Yeah, the symposium, right? And so there was a precedence for at least some women to to run in those circles. But yeah, that's really again makes this quite a unique outlier.
And just next, Marrou, I would say, summarizes more eloquently and carefully what we were just talking about a moment before in terms of philosophical conversion being religious. Could you read that part, please?
Yes, I can. Often when this conversion to philosophy took place, and it has an amazing likeness to our own idea of a religious conversion, the break with rhetoric was particularly emphasized. The classic case is that of Dionysius of Prusa in AD 85. When this renowned sophist was about 55, Domitian sent him into exile, and his trials and tribulations were such that he experienced a profound moral transformation, renounced the vanities of sophistry, and adopted the austere way of life of the militant philosopher. Ooh, militant.
Well, I think that means not that he's fighting people.
Aw.
I think it means that he views philosophy as something that ought to prevail over others, so he's constantly advocating, right?
Yes.
So maybe instead of militant, something like proselytizing.
Yes.
He's kind of evangelistic fervor.
Right. Now, it strikes me also that part of these conversion stories, and I throw the Augustinian one into this, is it's not just kind of the light bulb going off; it's a turning away from something, diametrically opposed.
Yes.
Right. So you're giving up the drink, you're giving up the carousing. In this case, he's giving up sophistry.
Right.
Yeah. Now, the next section of the chapter is entitled The Teaching of Philosophy.
Correct.
Right? So what does Marrou have to say?
Right. He says, there was a proper system for teaching philosophy. It had three main forms. First, the more or less official teaching given in the actual schools by each separate sect. These schools were organized as confraternities. They were founded originally by one master whose teaching was carried on from one generation to the next by a head, the scholarches, the scholarch, who was duly appointed by his predecessor. As Plato had chosen his nephew Speusippus to succeed him, so Speusippus chose Xenocrates, apparently you had to have strange names,
yes,
who chose Polemon, our guy,
that's our guy, yeah,
who chose Crates. Similarly, Aristotle left the Lyceum to Theophrastus, and Aristoxenus was very much annoyed by it.
Wait, who was annoyed?
Aristoxenus.
Okay.
You know Aristoxenus, the guy that was annoyed that Aristotle left the school to Theophrastus and not to him?
Yeah, poor guy. All right.
Secondly, there were isolated teachers working on their own account, freelancers, in some city in which they had established themselves. Epictetus, for instance, who had also been driven from Rome by Domitian, settled in Nicopolis in Epirus, opened a school, and was soon drawing pupils who themselves settled there. Finally, there were wandering philosophers, popular lecturers, or rather preachers, who got up at street corners or in the middle marketplace and harangued the casual or curious bystanders, hurling challenges at them and exchanging backchat with them, whence arose the famous practice of the diatribe. The Cynics were specialists at this sort of thing, but many of the Stoics flirted with cynicism and copied them. I only mention this third class as a reminder, for obviously these tub-thumpers can hardly be looked upon as professors of the higher learning. Most people looked down on them with suspicion, and they were often in difficulties with the police, and though they may have helped a few of their listeners to realize their vocation for philosophy, they gave no regular course of instruction. So this is the YouTube influencer. This is somebody like Steven Crowder, if you know that guy.
I
goes to college campuses and he puts out a provocative sign.
Gotcha.
Something like "Food makes you sick, change my mind."
Oh yeah. I know that guy.
I just made that one up,
right?
To try to be non-political. But he puts out things like that. He tries to engage with young minds. He would be, in Marrou's parlance, a tub thumper.
Tub thumper. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I still see walking around Grand Rapids the street haranguers, right? With the bull horns and yelling political and religious things. I mean,
primarily religious, though. I mean, there's some political, but maybe it's because we don't live in Portland, Oregon, or somewhere like that.
True. Yep.
That we don't see as much of the political.
Yeah. So I think this is something that has really never gone away.
No, it hasn't.
Right. So we have our three things. So we have kind of your more teachers kind of passing on their system, their school to a chosen heir.
That's correct. And so they would have an HR department. They would do onboarding.
Yeah, lots of onboarding.
First you pivot, then you onboard.
Right.
It's either basketball or surfing.
Exactly. They'd probably be putting pins in things.
Oh, of course. Right. Let's stick a pin in that.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Let's table this.
Okay.
And then two, you have your freelancer.
Isolated teachers.
Right. So Epictetus, kicked out by Domitian, goes to Nicopolis.
So these would be people who have online websites that take you from neophyte to erudite.
Gotcha.
Stuff like that.
Yes.
They hang out a shingle.
Yes.
And they say, I can do this on my own.
Right.
I don't need an HR department.
Yep. And then you got the tub thumpers.
That's correct.
Okay. Really interesting.
Not much has changed.
Yes. Not at all.
The teaching of philosophy, says Marrou, was many-sided, and it gradually got more technical. Students were supposed to have finished their secondary schooling before they embarked on it. In other words, you got to graduate high school.
Exactly.
You got to take the SAT.
Yep.
But the various sects were not all equally strict on this point. Epicureans and skeptics pretended not to mind. Come on in, don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. Take a seat, relax.
Whereas those who insisted on a basis of mathematics were obliged, as this science declined, to teach it themselves, though it was foreign to philosophy proper. This happened, as we have seen in the case of the Neoplatonists, at the end of the period. The study of philosophy proper began simply enough. All the schools began in the same way, with a few general ideas about the history of philosophy. Greek students, like the students of today, learned that thinking had begun in Ionia with the great physicists. Thales maintained that all things came from water, Anaximander from the unbounded, Anaximenes from air, Heraclitus from fire. I found this really interesting. And again, like the students of today, they did not know much more about these people than that.
That is really interesting.
That's it.
Yeah. I remember in Philosophy 153 learning about those Ionian philosophers.
The pre-Socratics.
Yes.
That's where thinking began.
Yeah.
So you're telling me prior to that, nobody thought.
No, exactly.
That's when it started.
Right. Yeah. I always wanted kind of a throwdown. I imagined a throwdown between Heraclitus, the fire guy,
right,
and then Thales, the water guy. I think that would be a win for Thales.
Like a water bender and a fire bender.
Yeah, there
we
go. Exactly. Yeah. What's the name of that tale? What's the water benders are from? Come on.
I don't remember.
Oh, you don't? Okay, sorry.
Avatar.
Avatar. There you go.
I do remember. Do you want to read us the next part? What happened with Apuleius and Albinus?
Yeah, I know. I was excited to get a shout out to my guy.
Your
here.
guy.
Right. Then came a course, still fairly general, on the school's own doctrine. Thanks to Apuleius and Albinus, for example, we can get some idea of the way in which the scholarch Gaius introduces his students to Platonism in Athens about AD 140. So this is entering an era which is usually identified as Middle Platonism.
Right.
Right.
Second sophistic.
Right. And so it's starting to merge more with kind of more mystical ideas, right? And we're kind of leaning towards Neoplatonism, and when it falls in the hands of people like Plotinus and Procles.
That's right.
And so Apuleius is there's not a ton that survives from him, but he was one of the sellers of this new kind of flavor of Plato.
That's right.
Yeah, and it was making its way into the schools. Let me continue there. This Apuleius was conscientious. He also wrote an account of the course of peripatetic philosophy that he was attending at the same time. This should not cause any astonishment, nor is there any need to drag in any reference to the general eclectic tendency of Greco-Roman times to explain it, for the matter was still comparatively elementary, and there was no question of any profound adhesion to any particular school, nor even necessarily any conversion to philosophy. So is he, I guess he's saying that
he's kind of backpedaling from the conversion idea a little bit. I would say.
But I think this is one of the very few bones I have to pick with Marrou. Is that he in some ways it feels like he's biting off more than he can chew.
Okay.
And then kind of talking about Apuleius, a philosopher, a novelist from North Africa. He's trying to kind of find some kind of grand unification theory,
right?
But he'll often kind of backpedal and say, "Well, it was really diffuse."
Yeah,
right. It's
I'll cut him a little slack because there isn't a lot of evidence for some of these things.
Yeah, true.
He's got to fill in some gaps.
Yeah,
but still, it seems to be that what he's saying is you had a conversion to philosophy, but you didn't necessarily have to be attached to a specific school thereafter.
Right.
It was the general idea of I'm going to be like Socrates. But then I could dabble in Stoicism. I can dabble in Epicureanism a little bit.
You could tub thump.
You could do some tub thumping,
and you could go to the school down the street.
That's correct.
Gotcha. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a better way to think about it.
All right.
Yep.
It was only after this, says Marrou, that the school's real teaching began. This also had two sides to it. In the first place, it meant studying the school's own classics. To begin with, of course, those by the original founder: Plato, Aristotle, Epicurus, or among the Stoics, Zeno or Chrysippus. As the rhetors expounded their canon of orators, so the philosophers, quote, read, i.e. expounded and analyzed, classical works. And here, too, the typically Hellenistic love of erudition sometimes swamped everything else, so that philosophy, too, was in danger of becoming philology, to quote Seneca. So you've got Seneca the Younger, right, the tutor to Nero. I think he died in 65 A.D. or so.
Yep.
He's complaining even then that philosophy has become too professional. It's just endless terminology. We're no longer talking about philosophy as a way of life. We've just descended to too many particulars and details.
Yes.
Interesting.
Let me pick it up.
Yes, please.
But there was a second side to this teaching, and this was more personal and more alive, for the teacher would give his own unbiased view of philosophy and thus share his own opinions and his wisdom with his students.
Now, Jeff, before you continue, do you do that? Or do you resist that, sharing your own unbiased opinions or biased opinions and views with your students?
I will happily share my biased opinions, but when I do that, I usually try to frame it in terms of a discussion. So this is what I think about it.
Right.
Do you buy it?
I see.
And then give the students an opportunity to respond. I try
you
not
don't
to
leverage your authority to say, this is the truth, and if you don't buy it, you're out of here.
No.
Don't care what the color of my eyes are.
I mean, I think that I would hope that kind of my expertise on things kind of comes through as just a way of kind of moving things along.
Okay.
But when it comes to kind of sticking points, when there has been kind of long-standing disagreements about things, I will offer says, well, this is what I think. This is the conclusions I've come to, but let's hear you wrestle through it.
Yeah. That's good.
I try. I don't always do that. What about you, though?
Yeah. Well, at the early part of my career, I was extremely strict about almost never doing that. I try to take 3/4 to maybe 7/8 of the semester and only present the ideas of others, even the students, right, as sympathetically and well as I could. And then once I thought the students' trust that I was going to be responsible about that, then if they really pushed me, I would share, okay, well, this is what I actually think about what we're reading. Here's my real perspective. As I've aged, I think I've gotten a little less disciplined about that.
Okay.
Maybe I've become a little jaded or impatient, or maybe a little more pedantic. I know it's hard to believe. Reached the heights of pedantry. No, there's still more to go.
Yeah.
I think I've gotten a little less disciplined, so I'm a little more ready to tell people what I think when maybe the earlier practice was better.
That's interesting. So,
do you have any thoughts on that?
I think a more charitable way to put that is that as you've grown older, you become wiser, and you can better defend the positions that you've come along to. And
so maybe grown in confidence, a little less hesitant.
Yeah. I mean, I felt that same way too when my age was much closer to the people I was teaching. They see you more as a peer. You see them more as a peer. And I think that meant that for me was like, well, I need to kind of back off a little bit.
I see.
And say, I'm learning this stuff just like you are,
man. Now you're the militant philosopher. You're just going to lay it down.
Exactly.
Okay.
Man, give me a tub and I will thump it. Yes.
What was the continuation there? These lectures, I kind of cut you off.
Yeah.
These lectures were not all of a piece?
Yes, these lectures were not all of a piece, nor were they all intended for the same kind of audience. They might be, quote, open, for the philosophers also declaimed, like the rhetors, lectured to the general public, or they could be, quote unquote, closed. But not to judge by the literature that seems to reflect this kind of teaching, they must not be imagined as a planned course that gradually developed into a mighty system.
You're going to read the German there?
I'm not. Like the Lebens- und Weltanschauung, produced by Hegelian professors in the 19th century Germany.
That was great. You did the German perfectly, and then, much like me, tripped over the English. That's exactly what I would do.
Right. So I think, once again, Marrou is reminding us is that kind of using a more kind of model of a university as we imagine it doesn't always kind of help us get to where this was going in the Hellenistic era.
Right. Yeah. And I would say today there are some individuals, I won't mention names, who are very good at, on the spot, dissecting the arguments of others. They're mostly on the right. Maybe that's because mostly what my listening habits are and my sympathies. Maybe there are folks like this on the left. I don't know. But that is engaging with a person in real time.
Yes.
Taking in the argument, assessing it, analyzing it, representing it back to the interlocutor, and in some ways puncturing it or developing the argument further.
Yes, yeah.
So that's kind of what these philosophers would do in the open setting. I'm going to declaim on what constitutes the happy life, and I'll take on all comers who have alternative explanations.
Yes, exactly.
But to my knowledge, almost none of that is within a credit-seeking system.
Right.
Maybe it does happen in philosophy undergrad courses, but what you hear from students coming out of those is usually different.
Yes, it's true. Yeah, those kinds of exercises I found. I try to do some of that in some of the courses where you take a thesis and say, okay, you're going to argue this side, and you're going to obviously argue the opposite side. Students are generally terrified.
Yeah, they are.
They don't want to come down.
I don't know why that
on a particular side.
The stakes are so low.
I know.
It's all just an intellectual exercise.
Right.
You can just pretend if you don't really believe it, and that at the end we'll understand it was, it was for sport.
Right, and even if you say exactly that, it doesn't move the needle.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. No. All right, what's next, Dave?
Well, here's where Marrou talks about the unique role that the philosopher played in the life of the student. He says, the personal tone of the old education, page 209, which I have stressed again and again, here comes out particularly clearly. The philosopher was expected to be much more than a teacher. He was expected to be guide, philosopher, and friend. And the essence of his teaching was imbibed not from the lofty eminence of his chair, but in the common life that he shared with his disciples. More important than his words was the example he set, his inspiring virtues and living wisdom. The result was that the pupil became attached, often passionately, to his master, and the master felt a corresponding affection for the pupil. It was in philosophic circles that the great archaic tradition of the educative eros, the source of all virtue, survived longest.
So it becomes familial.
Correct.
And it becomes I think he even used it. Passionate.
That's right.
So
whether it was Platonic, he doesn't mention anything here about it going beyond Platonic.
I think that his use of the word eros maybe kind of leans us in that direction.
Perhaps.
Yeah. But this is more than just student teacher spending time in the classroom together. It was something that involved their entire life.
That's right.
Yeah.
Have you had relationships? I'm obviously chaste. I'm talking about.
Yes, of course.
Like that with students, where there was a real meeting of the minds.
I'm sure you've had this too. I know you have this. There are particular students that that study with you, and then you stay in contact with and for a very long time, and they seek your counsel, and it goes from kind of that professional.
But we weren't talking about me. We were talking about you.
What?
We were talking about you. Do you have those?
Yes. Well, that's what I'm describing,
yes. Okay,
right?
Sorry.
And where it stops being professional and it develops more along the lines of a friendship.
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
Those are very satisfying.
Yep.
In fact, we just received word recently that a dear former teacher is in very poor health.
Yes.
And that brings back so many wonderful memories of how this person invested in both of us.
Yes, a great man. Yep.
Well, on that note, Jeff,
yes,
let's hawk some products.
Let's do it. This episode of Ad Nauseam is brought to you by Hackett Publishing. Love these guys. They've been with us, it feels like 55 years now. Yeah. But that's actually how long they've been around.
They've been with everybody else. We're late to the party.
We are. But they have been with us for over 5 years now.
That's right.
And this great company took a chance on this little podcast. And it just so happens that their philosophy, their kind of worldview coincides very much with what we're trying
Absolutely.
to do. Yeah, they are one of these companies that is keeping the flame alive.
I have 2 words for you.
Yeah.
Reeve and Kontos.
Yes. Tell us more about that, Dave.
Well, CDC Reeve and Pavlos Kontos, you notice how I got the second name?
Nice.
They have recently published the Collected Works of Aristotle, the first major translation of Aristotle in something like 50 to 75 years.
Man.
A beautiful cloth-bound, Smith-sewn slipcase, purple cover set with some of the best scholarship you could ever hope for on this subject of Aristotle. Hackett has it.
That's excellent, right? And I would only expect this kind of thing from Hackett.
Exactly.
Right. So, listener, if you go to hackettpublishing.com, that's HACKETT publishing.com, check out their extensive catalog, and you will be struck by a number of things. But I think what you'll be struck by in particular is how attractive these books are.
Lightning, maybe?
Yes, there we go.
Will they be struck by lightning?
They might be an intellectual kind of lightning.
Nice way to allegorize.
Right.
Continue.
I have some kind of conversion experience, perhaps. But these attractive volumes, the artwork is great. You'll see multiple translations of particular works.
That's right.
And I think what will really jump out at you is how affordable so many of their books are.
So you want to go there. You want to put things like one of Stanley Lombardo's translations into your little grocery cart, maybe something from Aristotle, maybe something from Descartes, maybe you like Eastern studies, South American studies. It's all there.
It's all there, yep.
And then at the checkout, enter this coupon code.
I believe it is AN2026.
And Jeff, that will get them 3 things. What are the 3 things?
Well, I know 2 of them. One is 20% off their entire order.
Correct.
And the second is free shipping.
And
what's that third thing?
The third thing you're pretending not to know is the great satisfaction that comes with supporting this podcast.
Of course. Very, very important. So check it out.
This episode of Ad Nauseam is also brought to you by our friend Della Chelpka. Jeff, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, are you ready for art?
Yes.
That truly speaks to your story?
Oh, I'm always ready for that.
Are you tired of art that speaks to other people's stories?
I've had it with other people.
Okay. Meet Della, a Tucson, Arizona-based oil painter who captures the people, places, and moments you cherish. You have some cherishable moments?
Oh, plenty.
Would you like them captured?
Absolutely.
She can do it with a certain kind of detail.
Yes, I believe that you can see this if you visit her website, right?
It's breathtaking.
It's breathtaking, yeah. You can. You have some on your walls.
I do.
Right? Yeah, and she's able to kind of capture these things with a photographic intensity, but also kind of revealing the inner soul of the subject as well.
Nice, exactly.
That's very difficult to do.
Yes, she's showcased her work in multiple galleries, illustrated books, and is often commissioned for standout projects. See her current works for sale at her website, dellachelpka.art, DELLACHELPKA.art. Find your inspiration, visit that site, and use this coupon code,
APELLES,
APELLES, to receive an ad nauseum discount of
10% off.
Check that out.
And finally, this episode of Ad Nauseam is brought to you by Ratio Coffee. Dave, what are people saying about Ratio Coffee?
Yeah, well, from this website, worksinprogress.co.
Okay.
I don't know what that stands for. Columbia, maybe?
All right.
In the U.S., almost every coffee shop serves drip coffee. It's made from a machine similar to the ones many Americans have at home. You put a filter paper full of coffee grounds in, the machine dispenses hot water over it, and a pot is filled with coffee.
Yes.
There are many ways of brewing coffee, though. One is especially elegant, technical, and ritualistic. The hand-brewed pour-over. In the last 20 years, pour-over has become a symbol of quality and craft in coffee. But, Jeff,
yes,
pour-over is a challenge for coffee shops. Many are proud to offer it, but the time-consuming process interrupts service and often produces inconsistent results.
That's a problem.
They are throwing us a softball here for ratio, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
How to brew the perfect cup of coffee remains a vexing question. When you think of pour-over, you might think of all these brand names, but what should you think of?
You should think of Ratio Coffee.
Tell me why.
Well, because they offer these wonderful machines. I have the 8. I believe you also have the 8.
I do.
Right? I have the 4 in my model in my office.
I believe I also have the 4.
Well, look at that. I have used the 6. All of these machines bring that pour-over technology into your home.
And it's not complicated.
No.
You don't need a barista.
No.
It's not technical.
Not at all.
You have the hot water that comes up through the metallic veins, down through the
Fibonacci head,
and into the
hulking carafe.
That's correct.
That's right.
The flagon. There's no Kindle brick. There's no scorch pad underneath to toast and burn your coffee.
That's right. The beauty is in the simplicity. It's just
correct.
The bloom stage, the brew stage, and it is ready.
Did you have some this morning?
Of course.
And was it delicious?
It was delicious.
And what should the listeners do?
They should go to ratiocoffee.com. That's RATIO coffee.com. Check out one of these machines. Now, it will set you back a little bit.
That's correct.
But this is an investment in your coffee passion.
Your ritual and passion.
Yes.
To help you have a good start to the day.
Indeed.
ratiocoffee.com /
ad nauseum.
And then enter this coupon code, which is AN ratio 2026.
Yes.
AN ratio 2026. And this will get you $20 off your entire order. Check it
out.
Jeff, now we return to the text.
Yes.
We're on page 209. Theoretically, a philosopher's training had, says Marrou, in all 3 parts, logic, physics, and ethics, i.e. a theory of knowledge. They had a doctrine about the physical world, and they had a system of morality.
Right. That's really interesting. I think that because I think that also pushes against the grain of what most people think of when they think of philosophy.
Right.
I think it pushes against of what most philosophy courses are.
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, how many philosophy courses talk about the nature of the physical world?
Well, I did take a philosophy of science course.
Okay. Well, there you go.
But they are. I mean, you're right. When people think of philosophy, they think about ethics.
Ethics,
and
right.
That's not a coincidence. We had the philosophical triangle. We talked about this in the episode Stoics Come to This.
Oh, yes.
Keep your eye on the bulbous
Nice.
and others.
Yes.
Right, those were yours. Way, way back in the 70s, I think. Anyway, there's a philosophical triangle in the Hellenistic period. It's logic, physics, and ethics.
Yes.
Logic, you learn dialectics. Ethics, how to live. And physics is where you learn about the gods because they created the natural world.
That's right. That's right.
But it's always ethics that dominates. Because people they don't have time to study syllogisms and atoms and so forth.
Right.
There are more pressing questions like, can I steal a ratio coffee maker?
Exactly. Right. Very
no,
pressing.
you mayn't.
That's right. Yeah. This division seems to have been introduced by Xenocrates and Plato's early disciples, and it was accepted unquestioningly by all the schools. But this does not mean that they were all equally concerned with the various parts. So there too, I don't call that backpedaling, but again, Marrou, he's
nuancing.
He's nuancing, right? The more the Greco-Roman period advances, the more important the moral aspect becomes. Like you were saying, it comes to be about ethics, until it is the essential, if not the only object of the philosopher's speculation and activity and whole life. His aim is to define and conquer and possess and pass on personal wisdom. A certain weakening of interest in disinterested speculation results from a corresponding strengthening and deepening of conscious and moral disquiet.
Interesting.
So over time, kind of the physics part of it, is kind of fades away. Well, and then eventually it becomes its own department, right?
Absolutely.
And it's philosophers now kind of thinking deep thoughts about what's right and what's wrong and what's real.
Exactly. Yeah. Well said. Page 210. One final point in this section, says Marrou. There was not one Hellenistic philosophy. There were a number of rival sects, all at each other's throats.
Now I like this.
The only way a doctrine could make any headway was under cover of a powerful barrage of dialectic, refuting its opponent's claims and mounting a vigorous counterattack. It occurs to me, Jeff, I'm pausing here from the quotation, that if universities and colleges had competing departments of philosophy.
Yes.
So here are the Cartesians, here are the Aristotelians, here is the tradition of Arabic or Muslim philosophy. Here are the Thomists, and here are the Augustinians. Now, I know that some of this exists within departments.
Yes.
Right? But it doesn't get very much play because they have to all kind of act nicely with each other.
Right.
But I think what people really like is when they see the sharp conflict of ideas.
Yes. Yeah.
And it happens on YouTube and other places. It doesn't so much happen, I don't think, in traditional academic settings.
I would agree with that. I did see a little of this when I was in graduate school. There was a professor in the classics department who was a Platonist.
Oh, right.
And I don't remember the particulars, but he hated a couple of the guys in the philosophy department.
Interesting.
And it was
probably with good reason.
It came down to kind
kidding.
of disagreement about an academic interpretation or
but Plato was right about most things. So, and I mean, if you're a classicist, you know how to read Plato.
Yeah.
The guys in the philosophy department, they probably didn't even know Greek.
That's probably true. But I remember studying some Plato with him, and he would spend a good chunk of our seminar time ranting about these guys upstairs. And it was so interesting.
So you learned nothing about Plato, but you learned a lot about the professor's enemies.
I learned a lot about how petty academia could be.
Oh, wow. Thankfully, that's changed.
Oh,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Got rid of that.
You want to continue that part there, please?
Sure. The fact has often been pointed out by historians of philosophy. Polemic was very important, sometimes too important, in the literary activity of the various schools. A strained, rather cantankerous, controversial atmosphere is highly characteristic of Hellenistic philosophy. And this has tended to discredit its findings in the eyes of many people. So, as you say, like people, because it's cantankerous, people kind of say, "Oh,
I can't listen to all that hair splitting." It's kind of the way many people view scholastic philosophy of the High Middle Ages. Right? There's too many rivalries between Thomists and Scotists and Occamists. Can't you talk about important things?
So just throw it out.
Well, that was kind of the humanistic response to that in the Renaissance.
Gotcha. We have, again, back to Marrou, we have only to read Lucian to see how philosophy went down in people's estimation as a result of the distressing spectacle of all of these rival claims and passionate mutual refutations. So Lucian, the great satirist, right, had lots of fun with kind of taking down these stuffed shirts.
Absolutely.
Right.
In the next section, as we come close to the end of the chapter, we see Marrou talking about the rivalry between philosophers and rhetors, the public speakers.
Yes.
So on 211, he says, again, when the philosophical apparatus became too top-heavy with technicalities, I hate it when that happens, as happened from time to time, then rhetoric stepped in to defend the rights of humanism. And, as Isocrates had done earlier, set up against the abstract philosopher, hag-ridden with syllogisms, the ordinary decent chap, with his common sense and primal truth and average intellectual equipment. For the rhetor did not despise general ideas or human moral problems. His teaching was full of them. So is this the conflict or the contrast between the abstract and esoteric expert and the kind of the man in the street?
That's what I think. So as you're reading that, it made me think that the rhetors here, they're the ones saying, hey, that emperor is nude. Right. They can kind of call out things as they are.
Right. You claim to know so much about ethics and morals and so forth, but you're just loading down the common man with too much jargon.
Yes.
What about sort of the salt of the earth understanding that I don't need any of that fancy philosophy to live a good life?
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's interesting to hear too that it almost comes down to kind of the circular firing squad.
Right.
So you not only have philosophers, throwing flames at each other, they're duking it out with the rhetors, and so there's these guns pointing in all kinds of directions.
Right.
I can see why someone like Lucian or your common person would say,
"Oh yeah,
why bother with any of this?"
Right.
Yeah.
Let's bring in a little bit of a light touch. Let's go back and revisit Aristophanes making fun of Socrates in the clouds.
Yeah. Perfect.
Exactly.
Perfect. Yes.
And clear out the underbrush. The last section, 214, page 214, this is where he's talking about the historical geography of the Hellenistic schools.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe just spend a quick minute on this because I thought that was quite interesting. He mentions Athens and Rhodes and these other places.
Yeah.
Could you read us a little bit about the prominence of Rhodes? This is the bottom of 214.
Sure. From the end of the 2nd century, the most active and flourishing university center was Rhodes. Since the Roman victory had forced her to give up her hegemony of the Aegean, which had once brought her greatness and riches, her place as the greatest international port was taken by Delos. Rhodes found new fame in the renown of her schools. Grammar schools, as we have seen, it was at Rhodes that grammar reached its maturity with Dionysius Thrax. Schools of philosophy made illustrious by Posidonius, one of the masters of middle period Stoicism, and one of the great names in ancient thought, though his importance, especially in the field of education, has perhaps been exaggerated a little by modern scholarship, and above all schools of rhetoric. So Athens maintains its place, right? That's become still Plato's Academy, Aristotle's Lyceum, never really kind of loses its prominence. But you start to see these other places become renowned for philosophical training around the Aegean and Rhodes, famous for the Colossus, right?
That's right. All roads lead to Rhodes.
There we go.
You might say.
Right, and then Marrou also mentions like Pergamum,
right,
with its kind of library that rivals Alexandria.
Yes.
You start to see these other places kind of pop up to rival or complement Athens.
Mm-hmm. And so on 215, a summary statement on Athens I think is quite interesting. Says Marrou, the great influx of students, that is, into Athens, some of whom came from distant provinces, gave these places a typically Latin Quarter atmosphere of rowdy, lawless, carefree, frivolous youths who got into trouble with the police, wasted their time playing ball games, were mad on horse racing and other shows, and had a weakness for feeble practical jokes. So I guess the guys from Plato's Academy, let's steal the pig from the Lyceum or something like that.
Yeah, it was the Delta Tau Zeltas.
That's right. And then the Aristotelians, let's TP the Platonic Academy.
Right.
Feeble practical jokes, says Marrou, preferably on their teachers when they couldn't be seen, according to Libanius.
Man.
And of course, there was some sexual immorality. Nevertheless, we must not paint too black a picture of these students of the late empire. Besides the wasters, there were sober and virtuous youths there too. St. Gregory of Nazianzen and St. Basil in 4th century Athens, Zacharias Scholasticus and Severus of Antioch in 5th century Beirut left entirely edifying memories behind them.
So it wasn't all Revenge of the Nerds.
No.
There were some bright lights that came out of these.
That's correct.
Yeah.
There was some real learning that took place.
Fantastic. So Dave, I believe we are up against it,
yes.
right? We got to get out of here.
We do.
Right. So, any last words about this, or kind of where Marrou takes this argument?
Well, the next part in part 2, the next portion is a chapter entitled Classical Humanism. As I mentioned, it's a conclusion of everything to this point.
Fantastic.
So that takes us to about page 228. From here to the end of the book is 120 pages, and as I said, we're going to pivot and go into talking about Roman education.
Yeah.
So when we revisit Marrou, whether sooner or later, that's where we will be.
Sounds great.
But before we say goodbye, Jeff, I'd like to make a quick plug for my online studies. Is that all right?
Please.
Okay, so go to latinperdiem.com. Check out the courses I have on offer, both introductory and advanced courses in Greek and Latin. These can take you from
neophyte to erudite.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Enter this coupon code at checkout, 10 plus 10 PLUS, and that will give you 10% off your entire order. You can also go to the Latin Per Diem YouTube channel and see more than 2,400 short video lessons on actual Greek and Latin authors, and please check out the Calvin's Latin Bible app as well.
Man, you got a lot going on.
I got some things going on.
Love it.
We got some people to thank.
Yes, as always, Mishka, our wonderful engineer, turns this around so quickly and makes us sound better than we actually are.
That's for sure.
And how about this Jeff Sheets guy?
Yes.
Great guitarist, disc dogger.
That's correct.
Right? And he's
Kansas City, Missouri.
Yep. So generously allows us to use his incredible music.
Thrill seeker for the intro and outro, and the thrill of studying classics.
And then it was Rush Hour, right?
Yes, nice.
Yep.
Rush Hour for the bumper music.
Yes. Hey, I'm guessing you guys out there, you would love to. You want a shout out. I'm sure you want a shout out, right? So you have a question, you have a critique, you have a praise. Get in touch with us.
Corrigendum even?
Yeah, even that. You can write to Dave at adnauseum.com. Don't forget that V.
Or to Jeff at adnauseum.com, JEFF at, and then there's a V in nauseum.
Yes.
Tell us what you'd like to hear. Tell us what you don't want to hear, and so forth.
Yes. Visit the website, adnauseum.com.
That is correct.
And pick up a T-shirt, a hat, a sticker.
That's right.
Lots of stuff to show that you are taking in the classics and keeping them down.
And if you would like to review some show notes, we have quite a bit of good material available, especially for teachers, like on the canons of rhetoric and our episodes on how to be a Latin guru and licensed to ille, that is children's books in Latin. Go to latinperdiem.com/adnauseum. And you can read quite a bit of material on back episodes. Not interesting to everyone, perhaps. Maybe some of you out there would like to review some of that. We're trying to make it all available to provide a more rich experience.
Sounds great. And Dave, next week, are we at a TBD?
We're a solid TBD.
Solid TBD. All right.
Maybe we return to an Ovidian vignette, one of my favorites, or something else, perhaps.
Yeah, I got some ideas. Right.
And I think, Jeff, you have the gustatory parting shot today. Is that right?
I do.
Okay.
This comes from one Mehmet Murat İldan,
okay,
who once wrote, "Eating is happiness only when all others are also eating, and when no one is left hungry."
Huh.
Yeah, I don't know if I
true? I'm not sure. But thanks for listening.